all the heady heights he reached as a Beatle, John Lennon was an intensely human being. It's curious, of course, that such a pronouncement should have to be made when discussing the life of a contemporary composer, but such was the power and glory of his accomplishments that people often find it difficult to understand that he lived, tried, and died just like anyone else. There was, of course, significant magic to the man, which was far more deeply rooted in his rather ordinary suburban upbringing than any mischief he got up to later with LSD, the Maharishi, and the notorious Yoko. I've spent a lot of time just walking around John's old neighborhood in Woolton, and have come to the conclusion that, like the alchemist turning ordinary metals to gold, Lennon had the unique ability to distill his dreamy compositions from the breezy day-to-day hum of post-war Liverpool into the majestic brain candy we revere today. Standing for a minute by the shops on Penny Lane, the big red buses rush by, filled even today with Tweety-looking characters right out of an old 1930s J. Arthur Rank film. The suburban skies are indeed still mightily blue, with huge powder puff clouds which roll by in an almost imperceptible parade. The little children, too, look especially mythical with their round faces, big sad eyes, and pale skin. The fact is, it's difficult to believe that anything has really changed much since a teenage John roamed the Allerton golf course, strumming his old acoustic on his way to Paul's, or sunk down in the long willowy grass in a vacant lot off Blomfield Road for a secret make-out session with buxom first girlfriend Barbara. Of all the places I'll remember in Lennon Land, Strawberry Fields is definitely not only the most obviously mystical, but so clearly a place of great inspiration and respite for the young, often lonely John. Like Mike McCartney told me many years ago on a whirlwind trip to the Holy Land on assignment for my first book, the Beatles are Liverpool, and Liverpool is the Beatles. Indeed, John Lennon's receptive intelligence, biting wit, and great art have a lot more to do with the Church of England's Sunday School, Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Men, and the English Music Hall than Yoko Ono's vacuous gobbledygook, or the artist's post-Beatle, political, avant-garde, self-indulgent ramblings. Even today, outside St. Peter's Church in Woolton Village, where John first met Paul, is a large sandstone monolith, thick at the bottom, then tapering off into eternity, which is inscribed only peace. A phrase John certainly bandies about in this rare collection of interviews, and one we should, of course, all do our best to honor today as well. In the meantime, sit back and enjoy the engaging philosophical perambulations of the very ordinary, incredibly complex, painfully conservative, outrageously artsy, terminally good-natured, trusting, and amusing late John Winston Lennon. Here John explains his overall mission and the heretofore unknown Lennon philosophy of something called hairpiece.
Yeah, what are you doing? Is eating or something like that? Hello. Hello. Hello, fine. Yes, thank you.
Sue Marshall from The Observer.
Oh, hi. Hi. Hello.
Very pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Pleased to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
Hello.
Hello.
Rob, my name?
Yes, how do you do? How do you do? How do you do? Pleased to meet you. Oh, it's a... Hello. How do you do? How do you do?
Why are you...
Just sit down. Make yourself comfortable.
Tell me, why are you staying in bed?
We'll be here 7 days. We might just change ends and look out there if we're going to be here.
Every morning we're making new sets.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Staying in bed 7 days.
Because for peace.
For peace?
Yeah.
It means bed peace?
Yes, well, an event is called a peace, P-I-E-C-E, but it's a pun.
And hairpiece?
Hairpiece is to tell people to grow their hair for peace until we get peace, maybe. Just keep growing it, all the hair you have.
This is our way of protesting the violence in the world, you know.
Rather than marching.
Violence in Vietnam and...
Violence in London, violence in Amsterdam.
The fact is, back in 1969, John Lennon was even considered outrageous to the art world, and quite regularly upset even the anything-goes avant-garde.
The Beatles' whole career was spent with trying to turn me down on stage, you know.
We're trying to, we're not trying to create people into small dolls, sort of nice, well-behaved, little dollies, I mean, all right, so everybody has this natural aggression on it. It's beautiful, but let it out in a different way. Why should you kill people, I mean, that's sort of like
I mean, I'm an aggressive guy, always have been, and it used to be manifest in fighting at school and things like that. But there comes a time where they either get beaten up, which which happened to me, or you meet your match, or whatever it is, and then it hurts, and then you've got to work it out, and why? Then I don't want to be always attacked by some guy on the street, So if we could just have it so as the aggression, there was a good play on TV once about, there's quite a few, I'm a TV fan, but and they had it worked out that all the killers of the world had some kind of club, and they could kill each other with freedom. Well, that's all right. I don't mind if you want to kill him and he agrees that you're going to fight to the death, as long as you don't do it in front of me because it upset me or involve me. But if you want to, we have got the machinery and the intelligence to channel it and have, aggressive places to go and play in, let's give the desert, and they can all take all the tanks there, and anybody who wants to play killing can play, as long as they don't bug me with it, or people I love, So when people say, well, all aggressive man is a natural aggressive animal, we're saying, okay, so what, So it still doesn't have to, we don't all have to be involved in other people's games, that's all we're saying. And everybody sort of accepts it, it's like, we've got to stand up to the bully in class, and gang together and stop him beating up whoever he wants. And that's all we're trying to say to the people, that together you've got the power to stop it, You just got to believe it. Do you want to tell him the difference between Warhol
for instance,
and self-portrait?
I respect Andy, for his works and everything, all right. But, what he was, it's almost like you saying, well, if I made a film of triangle relationship or something, well, that's being done by Jean-Luc Godard, or it's that, The thing is, what we are doing is so different from Andy in the sense Andy is basically camp, basically very camp, and whatever he's doing, he has all these pretty boys, sort of taking each other's pants off or something and laughing and giggling and all that. And the influence that created, in the whole world or whatever, was sort of this sort of campness, That's very nice too, I think. But, we have a more sort of immediate sort of message, which is peace, And all the rhythm of the whole thing is completely different, He's never produced a film of 8-trick, completely, enlarged like that, in slow motion, etc., which he hasn't done. But it just isn't his style, He would like a story there, with possibly, one fag and maybe one big Negro guy and a girl who's in between that.
See, what we like to do really is go to the extreme, as far as we can see straight away. So when we come up with an idea like, Geoffrey came up with the idea of the smile of my face, and once I got over the initial hour, the skyscraper, and for instance, it's like the Mona Lisa or it's just a portrait of my face, and the moment you accept a portrait, people accept a pic of Van Gogh or something looking at you for 100 years without moving. Why can't they accept a film? Admittedly, at the time, the present situation, you all have to go somewhere to enjoy the Van Gogh, but you still have to go to the Tate to see most of the best old work, and you've got to sort of set yourself down and look at it. So at the moment, you've got to go to the ICA and watch that film. But the way we really conceive it is for people to have some kind of thing on the wall where the thing would be there all the time, and now and then, as Yoko said, the portrait would just wink at you, but it'd still be so that's a portrait of me, and it could have been anybody, but she chose me because we were in love, and she chose me before that.
Right, because he represents something, doesn't he, in a way?
And the message I'm sending across was, she was on the other end of the camera, and I'm sending my love vibration, or whatever you call it, to her, and therefore...
We were doing it like that.
We were doing it between each other, like mesmerising each other through the camera. Therefore, I'm in a way, we then share it with the audience, And the fact that 3 minutes of time, it's like when you first saw those pictures of a whole flower growing, they did those trick films, and that was beautiful. It's the same thing. You can watch, how often do we look at each other? We always have some reason to look away, even the closest friend, only your wife or your girl, do you really look at them for hours till you know inside out? But when to watch somebody's face is fascinating. And if you get over the hang of this me, you know, I would have preferred to watch Yoko's face or another woman's face, you know, rather than mine. You know, I get into it because it's like looking in the mirror. It's very nice. But you know, as an audience, I would have preferred Yoko, you know, to look at, you know, as a woman to look at. But to look at some 3 minutes time, spaced out into 2 hours or whatever it is like taking an acid trip. You know, it's a moment of time, you know, blown up out of all proportion. And to give you, it's relative then, it shows you the relativity of everything.
It's sort of metaphysical, you know, in a sense that the timing is slowed down, the rhythm is so extremely slowed down. And we like to see the world like that. In other words, if people start to slow down their life, you know, because the society is so speeded up, I mean, naturally it becomes violent. I mean, even the most calm person would become violent. They have to.
Like if you go to New York or the States, you've got to change your whole attitude and everything. You really, you know, I always get shocked every time I land there. It's just, and it's like Life with the Lions all the time. I was saying to somebody yesterday, it's like when the English hear Life with the Lions, they sort of go, wow, you know, but in America, it's sort of accepted because they're at that kind of noise level or whatever it is all the time. You just get off the plane and it terrifies me, America, and it's all like that, I suppose, except for the backwoods. So it's quite natural for them, you know, all that kind of thing. We've got to get in the scene, you know, and we've got to get in the in club to get shown, you know. We've got to go with ICP or EMI. We've got to break through. And of course, I mean, we think sometimes we'd like to make a film that wasn't so avant-garde, underground, that you had to be one thing or the other to watch it, you know. And no doubt we will make, I mean, we make documentaries of our trips abroad, which we just haven't got them together yet. The other guy did it for us. But we have one at Montreal, which will probably be a reasonable, you know, working man's documentary, you know. And we find that interesting. But to get in on that scene where they've had Warhol and anyway they've had Goddard, we've got to top them. It's like coming in, there's the Beatles, the Stones and everything. Now, a group today to break through that, the Stones, Beatles, Jethro Tull, everybody that's around now. It's not like when Beatles broke through and there was only, when you look back it doesn't seem there's any competition, there was nothing. But in the film world, they're leaping ahead like shit, you know, just as fast as the music business. And you've really got to top them. You've got to top them. It probably is the fastest medium. And it's no good coming out with another, I mean, we wouldn't be content with making...
another Andy Warhol?
Not another Andy Warhol, just content with making, I can't think of one, Barbarella or something, you know. And it might be good fun, you know, or even 2001, you know. I dug 2001 like mad, but it's not, I think Smile is a million years ahead of it, but 2001 was a beautiful trip. It's the difference between literature and TV, you know. But to get in it and blow the minds and blow the people in the business, and, you know, you've got to try and top them, you know, otherwise there's no game, you know. You're doing it as a hobby. It'd be great to be on the local cinema, even if it was a small local, because there's a guy that does a film magazine, Fever, we've got him working upstairs now, because he goes around and produces a magazine, then moves on to the next country. He got so hooked on the films, he just got them under his arm, and his whole life is more our films than his magazine now. And he's been showing them in Denmark, Yugoslavia, just everywhere, and to houses of 2,000 people a night, or 200, depending on what it is. And he's given us the confidence to believe that there would be that many people around to watch them and dig them, you know. And so he's really pushing them like mad, and people like Danish TV are saying, we'll give you $50,000 to do anything you like. So we're beginning to believe it now. So we have the choice of either, we have to make the deal with somebody big and hope they'll distribute it worldwide, which is the dream, or we have to do it his way, you know, and just let him sort of pound the beat with them, going around with the demo discs. And he does things like put us in every film, what do they call, exhibition, what are they called? Festival that there is everywhere, you know, and get them in through that way.
But even festival, you know, I really like the idea of putting it on West End, you know, something like that.
Well, that's what she did with Bottoms, you know, before.
And,
So she didn't even need Beatle backing to get West End showing at Bottoms was a fantastic effort. And to produce films that it isn't such a great event every time a fucking film comes out, you know, that it's just like telly. I mean, if that Smile was on Channel 14 one night, and you could either watch that or the Wednesday play or Coronation Street, then it's not that important. Does it matter whether it's like Warhol or, you know, it's like Dylan said about Britain's too hung up on its singers, you know, let it be less important, the Beatles LP and the Beatles single and the Stone. Let it just get the production get a bit faster and less talk and more sort of fun. And we're trying to make films as fast as we can, you know, and just not get involved in. I mean, I'm always coming up with ideas, you know, because I don't know. Actually, Richard Rauschenberg did it in 1930, you know, because I've only just joined this game.
No, but you know, he
But
comes up with
apart from
fantastic
that,
ideas.
it's
And I
just
hate
great
say
to
it,
just
you know,
be involved, you know, just trying to think of
because he does come
way
up
out
with
things,
ideas
you know.
that precisely made those people famous, you know.
It just bloody annoys me. It's like, you know, it really
And I
brings
hate
me
to say
down,
what
and I'm
it's
always
been done.
doing
I
it.
hate to be a drag, but you know, I just always say it.
The thing is, I'm just not the type of person, neither of us are, to do a production of that scale, you know. We haven't got the money to sponsor films of that size.
No, we
The
don't, you
Beatles'
see.
money is a myth, you know. This is all we own, and the houses we've got. Anything else is a myth, you know. We are not millionaires. And if we are on paper, it's a joke, you know. We don't have the money people imagine, you know. And we've got a hard job to break even on the money we're spending out, you know. We're putting into these films and that. We haven't broken even yet on all the
These
films we
films are
made.
very cheaply
And
made
the cheapest kind of
films, you
film.
know.
Because, I mean, even Apple didn't want to know about Two Virgins, you know. Even now they're not sure. I mean, we've got friends here who dig Life of the Lions and that, but, you know, if they're sending out handouts to the press, now they forget all about Life of the Lions and anything like that. And just recently there's been a big EMI meeting, you know, sort of a yearly salesman meeting, and Kenny Everett kindly or otherwise made a record to play to him, saying like an Apple promo record, and he's talking about James Taylor and the Ivies and all these people that haven't sold half as many records in the States as John and Yoko, but it's as if we don't exist even in our own company half the time, you know. It's as if we don't exist here. And I mean, James Taylor and then only Mary Hopkins has sold more than John and Yoko. And that's the freakiest stuff possible, and much more important than James Taylor's music as far as I'm concerned. And our own company sending its own propaganda out, unless I'm here to catch the fucking the promos going out. It's like we don't exist, you know.
They're scared
So
of,
we've got to
you
fight,
know, putting us
the
in.
fight starts here.
Here we gain a little insight into John's thinking about his future plans.
I haven't got any specific plans, you know. I just plan to turn the people onto peace. Do music, painting, drawing, books, dancing, eating.
And what new songs has John been working on?
I've got a couple coming out, you know. I mean, I've written a couple since I've been on the road with Yoko. One of them's called Give Peace a Chance, which I'm going to record as soon as I can.
Certainly, the main topic of conversation with Lennon at this point in his life was promoting peace. He explains how he first got involved.
It just sort of was a gradual development over years, you know. I mean, last year it was All You Need Is Love. This year it's All You Need Is Love and Peace, baby. Give peace a chance. Remember love. The only hope for any of us is peace. Violence begets violence. If you want to get peace, you can get it as soon as you like if we all pull together. You're all geniuses and you're all beautiful. You don't need anybody to tell you who you are or what you are. You are what you are. Get out there and get peace. Think peace, live peace, and breathe peace, and you'll get it as soon as you like, okay?
About the only thing that dwarfed John and Yoko's unparalleled PR in '69 was America's landing on the moon. Still, the Lennons managed to edge their way into even this big story with these comments.
I was just thinking, oh, I hope the Americans are not going to start getting aggressive again and feel imperialistic about this event and make a colony out of the moon, which they usually do, you know, just make colony out of anything that they can lay hands on. And that's one concern. And the other was, I thought, oh, well, maybe, you know, something interesting might happen, you know. But I mean, not to that sort of, it's not like a fantastic dimensional change, you know, it was that was the greatest fear I had about, oh, are they going to colonize again? Are they going to start getting aggressive again? Oh, the positive is you know, that's not the word for it really, but I mean, the other side of the feeling was, okay, so America at least was still together enough to do that, you know, because I mean, the States doesn't have much reputation now of being together, you know, but maybe this was just another aggressiveness on their part, you know. They might use this immediately to, you know, their propaganda and all that. So that fear, you know.
It's done them good politically, and because of the fear that the Americans had that the Russians would take it and bomb them, and the vice versa.
It's just all that, isn't it?
So I was hoping really they would have both landed at the same time, you know. They've been planning it since they got rockets from the Germans, haven't they?
We all have dreams about going somewhere, etc. You know, I mean, the stars and the moons and all that. But I mean, nothing is really going to be practically done unless some scheme is really pushed, you know. Especially in America, I mean, I'm sure that, you know, there was a big government push, you know, behind it. So what do you expect?
It was verified by what the Kennedys or the Johnson said, okay, let's really push it, and they really pushed it. And they had to sort of come up with the goods within so many months, and they did, you know. So it's just a matter of them all deciding in America, the whole nation really, yeah, let's do it, and they did it.
Oh yes, it's a
well, you thought of it because you read all the science fiction books, you know.
Yes, all the children dream about, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
the moon and all that. So, of course, I mean, the government didn't think about it. I mean, it's the children who thought of it, you know, before the government, you know.
Here, John is asked to explain just exactly what he feels constitutes a beetle.
A beetle? I suppose it's something four guys turn into when they get together and project. Beetle.
I mean, beetle image is something that other people create and think, isn't it? I mean, it's so funny to have your own image about it. I mean, how could you, you know? It's like a building, the image of a building is easier to see from outside. I mean, if you're inside, you don't see the outside of it. You know?
I mean, I think of the Beatles as a separate entity, you know, we all do. I'm John, and I often say to Anthony or Neil or any of the people, see what the Beatles think. And we say it to each other, you know, I mean, what do the Beatles think? But it's always the same, you know, just depends what I'm doing, you know. I'm always John and Yoko, you know. That never stops, you know. I mean, we're a 24-hour couple, so whatever I'm doing with Beatles, Yoko's sitting on my shoulder like a parrot, you know. So
exactly.
There's no four guys together bit, which there used to be, you know.
Brian Epstein, though invaluable to the Beatles in the early years, was quite frankly rather a pain in the ass to the boys as time went by. This because of his unhappy homosexual relationships and losing bouts with alcohol and drugs. In this telling piece, Lennon comments on the fallout of Eppie's untimely death.
I don't think of him very often, you know. I mean, he's missed when we realise we have to think about all the business things, you know. But I'm one of those out of sight, out of mind people, really, you know. I've got a built-in resistance to sorrow, you know. I forget things the next day, which is lucky. I remember odd things from way back, you know, but really I've got a good sort of, whatever it's called, you know, the buffered, protective thing in my mind. I just hopped into this bag
Nothing
with
is
Yoko.
foreseeable, is it?
And it's, you know, it's always changing. So we just keep changing our bags, but if the bag gets bigger, that's the bit. That's the bit, you know. I mean, I got out of one bag, like a Beatle pop bag, and we've said this many times, she got out of her avant-garde bag, and we got into a bigger bag, and so there's more room to breathe. And so it's just keep expanding the consciousness of the bag. It's like trying to explain a flower. We know what peace is the opposite of war, you know. We're also talking about peace of mind, you know. So it's a bit hard to define a flower, you know, but we all know what it is.
So peace is a very simple concept, isn't it? I mean, you know, if anybody who tries to intellectualize it or something, and then they might just sort of deform the idea, but as long as they're honest about it, everybody knows, you know, really.
See, all we're trying to do in a way is to make people aware that they have the power to have peace, you know. Like, we have the power to prevent Britain being involved in the Nigeria-Biafra war, you know. The people have the power, we put the politicians in there. But we believe the myth that's being created that we need these grand old men, the village elders, you know, and it's got to such a state that the village elders, like in all tribes, have got it so sewn up that nobody can get a word in, you know. But it's only a matter of us revolting without creating havoc and just changing the method, you know. Because if the youth are hipper than we were when I was a youth, I know that just from meeting my cousins and odd youths I've come across, you know, they're much hipper than I was as a kid, and I thought I was pretty hip. So I think there's more of them understand it than you imagine. It's like in the disc poll, that was an amazing thing, you know, an amazing intelligence of some of the kids analysing or whatever of what we were doing, Yoko and I, and that was 12 and 14-year-olds, you know. So they're not. So the thing we're aiming at really is partly that generation, because if they realise they can do it, and they can because they will be it, they will be the establishment, then it's up to them, you know, and they can't sit back and blame the chief of the tribe for attacking the next village, you know. They can't do that anymore. It's their it's all our responsibility, you know, and that's all we're trying to get them hip to. Is it's like in the old, you know, all the workers pre-unions didn't believe they could ever do anything about it. It took how many hundreds of years for them to think, now if we all stop work, what's he going to do about it, you know? And that's what we got to do about peace, you know, whether it's all stopping work or whatever. So I don't know how the original, I can't remember my history from school enough about Todd Slaughter or whatever his name was in the 1200 who started it all, you know, but it was about 1800 before anything really happened. So maybe we're him, you know, but I hope we're not. I hope Todd or whoever he was a few years back, you know, maybe that was, what's that old guy, Russell?
Yes.
Or before him, maybe we're the next generation. But the thing is, we're so far removed from it. We're a bit nearer with Ireland going on, you know. But apparently even in Nigeria, the people there are so sort of blasé about it. They don't really feel as though they're at war, you know, it's not harming them. So all we're trying to do is make them aware.
You really have to make them aware.
All the people are dying all the time.
Because you see, it might come to you, you know, that's the thing that you don't realize, you know. Like, we were saying that all through this peace campaign, you know, like, well, it could happen to you, and you don't really feel it. Now, we went through the same problem, like we were in a car, you know, and we never thought that we'd have a car crash, you know, and we had it, you know. It was a really frightening experience, and we thought, well, it can't happen to us, you know, but it did, you know. And when it comes to that, you know, I mean, you know, the ones who died, you know, will have no words, you know. So usually you don't really feel the effect because the dead ones don't come back and shout, you know, and it happened to me and it's going to happen to you too, you see. It's really very scary actually. I mean, like in Biafra and all that, all these people dying every day, you know. And meanwhile we're just sort of sitting here and, you know, intellectualizing things.
There isn't any country that hasn't attacked somebody else, you know. There's very few.
Exactly.
There may be one or two tribes, you know, or something. So
Oh,
there's
yeah.
nobody has the authority as a country to talk about peace. Certainly not the English.
We're in the same boat.
But I mean,
everybody, you know.
at least this generation, our generation of Englishmen, can pass on to the next generation of Englishmen that what our fathers did was a lot of fascist killing, you know, and not to be conned by the British Commonwealth and the Daily Express and probably the Times too. You know, all we've got to say to our kids is, because all we got as kids was Empire Day and yeah, all that. I mean, and the Beatles played the British Legion. Can you bring these guys some tea as well, please? Oh, I see.
Made any, but it takes a long time to set.
Yeah, I'll have it at home. So there's none of us have any right to talk about peace, you know, because I've beaten people up and I've fought with Yoko, you know. But I prefer peace. I prefer myself in a peaceful situation, and I prefer my friends when they're peaceful, you know. And you've got to start somewhere, you know.
Yes.
That's the bit. You just got to start somewhere.
Only the violent ones knows the value of peace. You know that bit, you know. I mean, Yes, I mean, there's no eternity unless, you know, there's death, you know. I mean, like, we die, that's why we know what eternity is, you know, what the value of eternity is. If everything is eternal, then you wouldn't have, you know, eternity.
We've got to get on with it. See, you've got to do it yourself, and so have we. I mean, I'd like Jesus to come and sort it out for us too, you know, or Buddha or somebody. I'd really like somebody to come and lead us. But the point is, there aren't any leaders leading us. So we've got to, it's like Eric Clapton, I was reading about him today. He's saying all the time his groups are splitting up. And it's partly because Eric and Ginger need to be led. And the responsibility of being the leader is too hard for him. You know, but he must get it together and lead the group if he wants to be Super Eric and all that, because that's the only way to do it. And that's how we all got to start leading instead of just following like sheep. You know, we've all got to take the initiative and, you know, stick a fucking poster in your window,
And it's so
or
easy
something.
to be a follower.
Because there comes a time, you know, you're lying in bed, and if you think at all about Biafra or anything, any of the kids reading Rave or anything, you think, what can I do? Nothing. You know. What can you do? Nothing. But just declare yourself. The first thing to do is to declare. You declare it to yourself inwardly. I'd like to stop it. How? I haven't a clue. What's the first thing to do? Tell my friend. Tell the next person to you. I prefer peace in the world. Do you? And you agree on it. Okay, what can we do? Let's stick a poster in our house window. It's got to start from the roots, you know, like any workers' movement, whatever it is, any movement, big movement started with the people. And the people have got to, like, just...
Think love
if there was,
think peace, you know.
If people just stuck, like, propaganda in their windows or something, it's a start to let other people know that they're not the only ones, even if they can't solve the problem. I can't give a political, social, economic answer of how to run the world without peace. I know there are people that could do that. I know it's possible, you know, so I'm not providing answers. I'm just saying, okay, I've stated my case and I've put my poster in the window, only I happen to live in a strange world, so my poster is a strange poster. But for kids, all they have to do is to declare their faith. That's the first thing, and then you're out in the open and you've admitted that you want peace, and that's the first move, is because until then you're being a hypocrite. You know, and that's a relief the first time you allow yourself to say to somebody else, I want peace and I'd like to try something, you know. And that's the first, you get back, you know, it's not an always giving thing, you get back from giving your time to peace or whatever else it is, you get some relief from it. But the thing is to make normal peace, you know, and somebody's got to stick their neck out. You know, there's always somebody with the first Tony Curtis haircut. I mean, there's always, I was always the leader of my gang, you know, so maybe whoever the equivalent of me round the corner can be the first one to do that, you know. It's, there's always somebody starts it, you know, so it's only a matter of somebody waving the flag, that you soon get following.
Also, we believe in things like telepathy and all that, you know, just thinking about it. If everybody in the world think about it, you know, something might happen, you know. Really, just that.
Few people realize that following John and Yoko's bed-ins in Amsterdam and Montreal, a third protest was planned for the Bahamas. For various reasons, however, it didn't quite come off. John's official explanation was that it was just too damn hot and much farther from the United States media pool than he expected. What follows is a never-before-heard press conference held on the eve of the Lennon's departure to the bed-in that never was.
Well, we've been trying to get in the States to do a peace mission, and we've been trying to get visas, you know, and it doesn't look like we're getting it so far. So we're going to the Bahamas to sort of blast off from the Bahamas, do a Cuba on the our way from the Bahamas. And the reasons and the behind the scenes bit about the visas we'll let you know about in the Bahamas. We've got something to say about it, which we won't say yet till we find out, you know, give them a day. And the thing is, we want to go and do a peace mission, we want to take acorns to Nixon, that's all we want to do, but somebody doesn't want us to do it, you know, and so the Bahamas is the next best deal we could think of, and we'll probably do a bed event there, which we did in Amsterdam, which was staying in bed a week, and we call it our second honeymoon, which we're having rather quickly after our first one. And we'll be
3 or 4 every year. The way we
doing
do.
that from the Bahamas, bed for a week, and then we'll be out and about a bit, waiting to hear about the States and trying to get friends inside to help us, you know. Because I think they think I'm going to go there and run around the streets naked, you know. The plan is just to promote peace in a non-violent fashion, and the States needs it. And it's the right time for 2 non-violent people to go. And why are they frightened of 2 non-violent people going to promote non-violence? The situation's serious enough for them to be pleased with people that are going to say to the kids, don't break it, you know, which is a bit explicit in that letter. The kids are shouting, kill the pigs. And we're saying, you know, get off that and get back to make love not war, you know. It's the only way out. And that's it really, in a nutshell.
And we're not trying to say anything special, and it's just something to remind them, you know, remember love and peace. You know.
And give peace a chance. And we can't see the, you know, that's something for them to be frightened of. The circumstances which kept me out were the court case for the drugs charge, but as the judge accepted the mitigating circumstances, I don't see why the States can't, you know. And the British are under the impression that it's the Americans won't let me in, you know, and it's just a game that's going on called delaying tactics. So we waited a week almost. We've almost wasted 10 days trying to get out there. So now we're going to go as near as we can.
And what would Lennon do if he actually somehow managed to get into the U.S.?
Well, we hope to have an audience with Nixon and give him some acorns to plant for peace as a symbol of peace, you know. And we think that's a positive move towards peace. And we hope to go around the world doing that, if we can, you know. But we thought we'd start with America, as it was an English-speaking nation.
And either some...
And with the violence going on there. So that's what we would hope to calm some of that. If we have any influence over the kids and youth, which we do, it can be better felt if we're there. They think we're going to inflame the youth, but we're not. We want to pacify everyone as much as we can.
John was also asked to enunciate his hopes concerning the Bahamas bed-in. Here's his reply.
We'll do 7 days in bed, in which we'll hold the 7-day press conferences, which is what we did in Amsterdam. For anybody who's interested, radio stations, TV, press, school mag, anyone who wants to know can get us there, you know. And we'd like, you know, the press from the north of America as well as the south. That's why we'd like you to UPI it, you know, so we don't arrive there and then the nearest ones get there first. We'd like everybody to have pre-knowledge that we're there, so anybody who's interested can get over.
In this unreleased interview, a Dutch TV reporter actually joins John and Yoko on the bed.
Some of them are more equal than others. Yes, I'd like to
So they're all infinite, they all have equal possibilities.
you would subscribe to them without philosophy, because I'm not much of a
No,
philosopher.
neither are they.
Just play recorder and
I'm just a plain singer.
it's the kind of interview that you love as a reporter as you don't.
No, I mean, we did this today to do any kind of interview that people want to do, whatever they want. But that's, we're here to do.
See all this, I tend to think that sensibility is gone out of it.
No,
This whole humdrum of recorders and stuff.
but I think there's something, it's always something beautiful about it, you know. All on the Beatles tours, everything like that. There's always something, you know, people have laughed, feel the photos had a good time, we got the right photograph or the right interview, and we always had a laugh because there's always some photographer fell over or got the wrong pictures.
And also, you know, there are many people in the world who are sensitive enough. When you report it, you know, they will see, you know,
No, he means that this is a madhouse, you know. But it's good, you know, everything's too serious.
You're sitting here and saying those were the days, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's kind of an impression that you are a very sensible, very grown-up approach to this whole thing.
Well, you know, I'm pretty old now, and she's pretty old, but we've got a sense of humour, you know? And that's what this is about, partly.
And the world needs sense of humour, I think, you know, more than anything else, because the world is getting more and more violent and tense, you know. So instead of becoming violent about it and say, stop the war or something with violence, it's better to sort of say, let it spring, you know, let's stay in bed, you know, etc. To laugh, you know.
The thing, though, that flabbergasts Dutchman a bit is what do you see in Holland as a honeymoon country?
It's a beautiful place, and Amsterdam is a place where a lot of things happen with the youth, you know. It's an important place, you know. Everywhere's important, but Amsterdam's one of them, and if there's a few centres in the world, Amsterdam's one of them for youth.
Many alive, vitally alive youth, you know, with high ideals and everything. For
And
the
the
world.
Provos and the white
Yes,
bicycles.
Provos.
I mean,
Are those ideas that appeal to you?
yes, the more peaceful the ideas that the youth have. And if we have any influence on youth at all, we'd like to influence them in a peaceful way.
And communicate with them, you know. I mean,
Say hello to them.
influence each
We're
other,
here to say
you know.
hello to people in Amsterdam or Holland.
I should like to ask my last question, which really is not much of a question, but it's a question though. The whole approach, your approach towards life is somewhat in a non-conformistic way. Now, what do you see in a so conformistic institution as marriage?
Because intellectually, we know marriage is nowhere that a man should just say, here you're married when we've been living together for a year before it. But romantically and emotionally, it's something else. It's like when our divorce papers came through, it was a great relief, you know, and we didn't realise how much of a relief it was going to be till Peter came up and said it's over. And it was only a bit of paper saying it's over. We'd made the marriage over by living together while we were still married to the other two people. But just the fact that somebody said it is over is a relief, and the fact that we got married was another kind of, not relief, just kind of joy, and it was very emotional. The actual marriage ceremony, we both got very emotional about it, and we're both quite cynical and quite hard people, but very soft as well. So everybody's a bit both ways, and it was very romantic.
I should like to have your reaction on this, Mrs. Lennon.
Yes, of course.
That's the way you are called now.
Beautiful.
I got this ring, you know, and of course a ring is to many people in contemporary world is their last maybe, but you know, I sort of broke down, you know, I felt so good about it. And it's actually, when I think of it, it's an old ritual, but a very functional, basic ritual, you know. I mean, it has a lot to do with sex, etc. You know, sort of putting this in and say, well...
Stop it.
But don't, it's
I'm joking.
It's kind of loose though.
You know,
Yes, we're having it fitted here.
It's almost like, well, you're my possession, etc. You know, and it's very nice. And this world is becoming too intellectualized. And that's why there's violence, you know, and tension of that kind. I mean, people should be more naive and happier in a way, and enjoy many rituals, you know, without being too cynical about it, I think. And we are, you know, really tough and cynical people, but in that way, we're sort of criticizing ourselves.
I might as well ask you my last question now. You were talking about marriage as an institution, and now the $64,000 question is, what about the kiddies?
Well, we were thinking we might be nice if we conceived one in Amsterdam, you know. We might call it Amsterdam or Peace or Hair or Bed. It'd be beautiful.
Yes.
What do you think about it, Mrs. Lennon?
Yes, I mean, you know, it would be nice to conceive a child in this bed, actually. But, you know, we don't have particular plans. I mean, we just go on, you know, living. Living is the happiness here.
Well, we have been intruding upon your privacy, but thanks very much indeed for your kind.
Been a pleasure.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Fijn, dankjewel.
Dank u wel.
Dank u wel. Would you care to sing Those Were the Days, my friend?
Okay. Those were the days, my friend, I thought they never end. That's all I know. Okay.
Okay, fine. Now let's go. Now I think I
Thanks
have
very much indeed. Have fun. Though.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I'm staying in bed 7 days.
Because for peace.
For peace.
Yeah.
It means bed peace.
Yes, well, an event is called a Peace, P-I-E-C-E, but it's a pun.
And hair piece is to tell people to grow their hair for peace until we get peace, maybe. Just keep growing it, all the hair you have.
This is our way of protesting the violence in the world, you know.
Rather than marching.
Violence in Vietnam and...
Violence in London, violence in Amsterdam.
What kind of violence do you have in London?
Anyway.
Just the violent ideas coming about how to change things.
Revolution through violence, you know.
I don't believe in that.
We don't believe in that. We feel that, so let's just have
Good
a
afternoon.
laugh, you know.
Hello.
Mr. John, where is your marriage ring?
They don't sort of do it in England, do they?
Well, the women get...
Only the...
Yeah, I mean, I'll wear one if you like me to.
You can borrow mine. Why did you choose Amsterdam to stay 7 days in bed?
Because it's one of those important youth centres.
Youth center?
Youth,
You know.
There's the Provos and the white bicycles, and there's a certain major cities, and this is one of them.
Have you heard of Fantasio in Amsterdam, the youth center?
No. With the details we don't know, we just pick up the vibrations, you know, which city's doing what.
And you feel that's certainly happening?
Sure, I mean, everybody knows something's
Very
happening.
vital youth, you know. Alive.
Do you think you're really going to get a chance to see Holland at all?
We're not trying to get a chance. We're giving chance of Holland a chance to see us.
These 7 days, you receive people? I mean,
Yes, sure.
which people?
Depends who they are, you know.
Friends.
Friends.
People who
Interested
are-
parties.
Yes, people who are interested in us and people who have the same feeling with us, you know, to make peace and communicate to the world about that.
Geoffrey Giuliano is the author of some 30 internationally best-selling books on the Beatles, John Lennon, and other iconic musicians of the 1960s. In 2006, his book, Paint It Black, The Murder of Brian Jones, was made into a film by Stephen Woolley and Nick Powell entitled Stoned, The Wild and Wicked World of Brian Jones. It remains a cult classic and the only film bio of the Rolling Stones. Giuliano is also a veteran journalist, having written for dozens of high-profile newspapers and magazines, including The Sunday People, The Daily Mail, The News of the World, The Mail on Sunday, Playgirl, and Rolling Stone. A noted film actor, Giuliano starred in such movies as Vikingdom, Scorpion King 3, Jules Verne's The Mysterious Island, The Fifth Execution, Far Cry 3, Fire Desire, among many. In addition, he hosted the long-running North American syndicated radio series, Geoffrey Giuliano's Roots of Rock, for 5 years, as well as pioneering the audiobook industry in the 1990s by authoring, narrating, and producing over 250 original, non-book-based, interview-driven productions. Giuliano's publishers included Random House, HarperCollins, Delta Entertainment, Durkin Hayes, Playaway Audio, Speechworks, and B&B Audio, among dozens more internationally. In 1998, Random House acquired his firm Tribute Audio, for which Giuliano acted as CEO and publisher for 5 years. His best-selling audiobook, That Fateful Night, True Stories of Titanic Survivors in Their Own Words, was nominated for a Grammy. In 2014, Geoffrey Giuliano founded Icon Editions and G2 Media Arts to market his updated works as well as publish new projects. As a visual artist, Geoffrey has been showing in galleries across America since 1977, garnering impressive reviews. His first professional assignment was designing several T-shirts for The Who's Pete Townsend in 1976. Geoffrey also designed and illustrated many of his original rock biographies for the biggest publishers in the world from 1984 to 2006, as well as designing for his pioneering record label, Samba Records, in the mid-1990s. From 2006 to 2011, Geoffrey was also the primary designer for the French fashion house Cotai. When Giuliano first conceived of creating his own literary imprint, Icon Editions, he became responsible for illustrating and designing 35 book covers, several hundred CDs, DVDs, as well as dozens of promotional posters, and eventually an entire collection of exclusive fashion and art. The expansive Design by Giuliano brand grew out of Geoffrey's impressive commitment to the arts and is the culmination of a lifetime's work by an extraordinarily talented and determined Renaissance man.